All right, we're gonna hopefully get quite a bit done today. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is start down here and just try to build some mountains in similar to this, I reckon, but maybe a bit more angled. So let's see if we can get some of that colour in. Seems to be a lot of this. So like reminding that sort of it gets cut off probably down there, so we don't need to do too much. I think the goal here is to try to blend these two sort of sections together. And so I'm just going to follow that whitish colour. Got some dark blue here, but it's all sort of dried up. Yellow, really used a lot of this yellow. Fantastic. Alright, so we got that blue. Let's mix the blues. Touch of green. Maybe we need the red is more for that. So anyway, see what's going on. Jeez, that's so that's sort of where the reflection sits in. Now it looks a little bit darker than probably what I'm hoping for, but we'll get it going. So I was hoping for a little bit of a darkness in here. And sort of blend that. So we've got mountain coming down. Darkness in here, I suppose. Again, we're just going to set things up. And then we can sort of blend this in. Now I also want to get rid of this. I feel like it should be a bit of a lake like that. Just seems a bit more appealing to my eye. sort of bit of a fan of that shape, more the shape rather than the colour. Nonetheless, get colour in there a bit later. It's just sort of what we need for now. So we're trying to, maybe I need to make more of this. Start with this, then move in. So it's sort of developing. We sort of want this to be like that. See how we've got this coming down here and that sort of swashing onto this. Then we've got a bit of a, don't know what we got there, but it's probably a bit too dark. But just try to blend it in. Where I think the white doesn't quite work. I suppose it's the challenge of painting over, you know, older works. Just try to blend it as best we can. So you've seen me sort of, so I think we can sort of, you know, get some darkness in there. Darkness in here. That sort of has a bit of a better effect. Okay, so it's looking very white. Probably not what I'm after. Oh, look at these. All that dry skin paint. Don't know if I can get it off. Let's come back in with this yellow. There's a bit of a... I feel like maybe we could extend this. It's not the focal point, so I suppose we can... So it really is that icy blue, which is just not... It just has no place for it in this painting. I wonder if I can now add some of this darker green. Looks okay. So I think I'm just trying to get rid of this sort of bluish look. How do I get it in here? And so we're going to have this as a bit of a reflection in there. You can already sort of see it forming. We'll just sort of You know, I think it's still good to get some blue in. Looks a bit wavy here, so I think we need to... It has a bit more of a built-up sort of vibe. No, don't. That's sort of creating a bit of a... almost like it's a bit of a... like a cliff. Which I think is pretty cool effect. Yeah. So there we go. Yes, I sort of want to keep this behind. So let's really push that farther thing, this part back. It's creating a bit of a shadow now for the light. Yeah, similar effect to like up here, sort of just happening in there. My only concern is this now. It really, I just need a touch more. It just looks a bit too white. So the one I keep persevering with the highlights of white when I already know that it doesn't quite work. Beautiful. All right, so that's going to be good enough. Yeah, so we have a bit of a mountain sort of forming. Going to get reflection in here, and that sort of changed the angle of it quite nice. I think actually feels, yeah, it feels pretty good. I think maybe we could something like that. All right, so that's still feels a bit. Maybe we need to come back the other way. So just cutting in some light here. This is where we can use our solid lines to really lead the eye. And like, obviously if this is in like, if we think the light's coming in here, I want to push this space in, so do that with the dark. It's interesting to see how, because if this is coming maybe this is more like that. A bit too light, but we already have a bit of a strange looking reflection here, to be honest, which is pretty funny. Not even really me doing anything. Yeah, that's actually creating a bit of a funny reflection. All right, so it's looking, I think that's looking pretty good. So you can sort of see it's really coming. Just make sure it's nice green. Boy. Anyway. Yeah, that really just sort of all right, so those mountains are really now coming towards us. Sort of happy with them. Like, I don't want to do too much. As in, like, overpaint them and stuff. I think I just want to fix. Okay, don't want to have too much on my brush. But can we just make this a bit darker? Now a bit of just sort of ad-libbing here. Looks a bit too... like a bit of a shadow. Too much now, isn't it? I've gone too much. It just looks like a bit more of a... Anyway, looks a bit weird now. Sort of a bit of a shadowy vibe, but I think what that means now is we need to a bit more darkness. So now we've got that bit of a variability. Oh, it's a bit of light. Right, so then maybe some warmth. Oof. You know, where is this hitting? Looks like I've definitely gone too much. Then we can sort of stream it. Bring it out. And where these white bits are. So that just creates a bit of warmth across. Still have a bit too much here. All right, so that's, yeah, it's just this this sort of white bit. I just not vibing. Okay, and I think that sort of helps our cause. You know, it's a bit random. It's a bit like, what is this? Anyway, that should be enough. Yeah, and then we really have a beautiful whiteness, and like this sort of feels a bit more mountainous here, which is sort of cool. All right, so that is pretty much that, most of that done. Now we're onto the water, which I think is going to be our hardest challenge. So I'm just having a look. At the photo. Okay. So we can have a bit of fun before we get onto that. This is where you start just doing those little finesse moves. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So we're just going to take a smallish, you know, because we want the sun to stream, but we want some of these to pop out a bit. Maybe not as bright as this, but I like, oh, we've got some sun hitting there. You know, that's looking pretty bright. Is there some sun on here that we can, like, we're just going to stream it across. Maybe just a little bit here. Now looking at this, I feel like this is our main one. That's very bright. Afraid I'm doing too much yellow. I don't want to get carried away. But I feel like this part should be in the background, so it shouldn't be as bright, because it sort of looks like it's pushing down into there. But then we've got this bright light, but there's a bit of an inconsistency because we've got this light sort of coming in, but is it going over here onto that? So I don't think it is. So I think we can get away with some here. I'm just going to do some more yellows. Subtle, but I think it's just going to make it enough. I'm curious if this is a bit too yellow. A bit more muted is better. But is that coming? Yeah, we've sort of got different rays happening, and I'm sort of not upset with that. Okay, and now we're going to do a scary thing, which is sort of, I think if I can just needs to be a bit more blue, maybe. Okay, it looks a bit odd. If I've done this correct. Now I just think just like this highlight, a bit too strong. I'd like to really soften that colour a bit. Okay, so that's where we really now get the sun on sort of this area. Okay, and that just pushes that mountain a bit further away. Just go get Lewis. Lewis. All right, so if I look at it, yeah, I think that's sort of where I'm wanting it to get to. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to try to highlight, actually maybe use some of that color that I've got just randomly here. So there's like highlights sort of sitting around. Make sure my looks too blue. I mean too white, sorry. Probably could be blue. Okay, so that's not the right color. It's better. Still don't know if it's working. Like just cutting in sort of the water in a way. It's not really anywhere else, it's just in this area, and it's sort of like streams. So it needs to be a bit more gradiented. It's not so hard of a line. I think that goes for this side as well. I wonder if it's... Thinking is it's too white at the moment. So it's hard because I'm trying to... I don't know if I've really done this correct. I think this sort of... It's just going to have to sit in like that. It's more... It actually more comes... Where is that on the image? 11 and top of 10. 11 and top of 10. So it actually comes out to here. So that's interesting. Maybe that's why it's looking a bit... Like, are we trying to push this sort of angle here into there is trying to really push. But if we go 11 top of 10 into here, so we bring land in around. I think that makes it a lot easier to sort of... Maybe we should do that. Then it sort of angles up. I think we should. So sort of almost comes out like that. Yeah, even more. It's a bit like... Oh, this gives me a bit more room. Sounds ridiculous. So you create the room, but so again we need more of that dark. Colours from different boards. And then I can all right, so that really creates a different sort of feel now, doesn't it? Wow. Okay, maybe we can make it a bit more rolling, to be honest. Like, you know, these can sort of, like that. Yeah, we can grow these mountains and really bring them forward. And how we do that? It's interesting sort of. So we've got shadows on shadows on shadows. You know, it's like a little. How's that? That's it. You just want to have a bit of fun with it. I don't know where it's going, but I think that sort of creates a cool. Yeah, I really sort of, once we clean this up, but I sort of like that line. Anyway, so I think that's, yeah, and I've got to work out a bit better with this water. I will just get a little bit of this colour. Hope it's similar. sort of just the start of the reflection. I think we've got to sort of wow, that looks all right. It's just these muted colours. It's a funny one. It's like opaque. You know, that sort of gives off that reflection vibe, and maybe I can just paint in this colour there. Yeah, so that has that sort of glass-like appeal. And I think we're going to just stop there and then, yeah, come back for the next.